These are the materials I will be needing for this dress. I'll be making it in between size for between a year and 2 year old can use the dress. So here I have my cotton lining, 100% cotton lining. Here is doll face satin. This is 1 yard of doll face satin. Like I said, I'm making in between sizes, 1 to 2 year old. Then this is my gray fabric. So this is my net, and this is 5 yards. 5 yards of two net, 1 yard of gray fabric, which I'll be joining. I will cut and join. Then 1 yard of doll face, 1 yard of cotton lining, and I will be using crinoline. Okay, so now we have folded it. We are cutting a full flare. So you already know how to cut a full flare. You check your length, the skirt length plus the radius. Then you fold it and cut. So this is my 1 yard. I have removed this one is what I'll be using for the top and the bow at the back. So you're going to cut your full circle now. So just to show you people, I've drafted out, this is my full circle. I divided the waist by 6.28 and I added the radius to the skirt length, and I was able to cut this. So go ahead and cut your full flare. So this is it, just for you guys to see. So remember to add your sewing allowance to the length of the skirt before cutting out. I added my sewing allowance to the skirt length. Then here is the radius. I divided it by 6.28. I went up by half an inch. That is my sewing allowance because I don't want the skirt to expand too much. So this is it. So you're now going to decide one of the sides and open it as the back. So this is what I have. So now we are going to cut the upper part, which is the most sensitive, or what will I say, that's the part you are going to pay attention to so much. So I already drafted my patterns here because I believe everyone here can draft a pattern. So this is my basic bodice. This is the normal basic bodice. This is the front and this is the back. So we are going to alter this. Especially the back. The back is going to be a V back, or let's say either straight or curvy. It depends on what you want. So what I do is, you can still get your own idea after watching it. What I do is I take another paper folded. Then I will put this front on top and trace it. I hope this is clear. I will trace it. So this is from the shoulder. I will trace it. And this is my tracing. So you are going to decide how wide you want that neck silver to be. So in my own case, I want it to be 2 inches wide. By the time I sew it, it's going to reduce. So I'm going to measure 2 inches. 2 inches. 2 inches. 2 inches. And 2 inches. Then I'm going to get my curve ruler and I will join it so that it will be a straight curve. Can you see this? So I'm going to cut this out. So if you now take this one and put it here, this is what we are going to use to cut the gray fabric, this fabric for the piece that is going to be on the neck. So we are now done with the neck. Now we are going to go to the back. At the back, we are going to decide how deep you want your back to be. Normally, what I would do is I will measure 3 inches to 3.5 inches, depending on how deep you want the back to be. So I will measure 3 to 3.5, and you can choose to make it slanting. You can choose to make it curvy. So in my own case, I'm going to curve mine. just for you to know that there is an allowance added to it. I hope this is clear. This is what I want my back, how I want my back to be. So you are going to take and you are going to cut it. So this is my back. Now, for those people who do not add allowance on the pattern, you can add your allowance while you are cutting. But in this one, you see I added allowance. Sometimes I also don't add allowance. Sometimes I do add, but I want you people to understand these lessons. That's why I added allowance. By the time you sew this, it's going to be deeper than it is. So this is the drafting of the pattern. Then for the back piece, so we're also going to trace the same way we traced the front to create that back piece. We are still going to trace this back too to create that curvy thing at the back. So mind you, we had measured 2 inches. So even here, we are going to measure 2 inches. But this time around, the 2 inches is not going to come to the end. It's going to like curve. This is where your choice is important. You can see my 2 inches. Can you see this? Then you are going to blend it. There is no standard to this. It's how you want it. This is the back. So it's, if you look at the 2 inches I measured here, I didn't even come close to it. So, but make sure the top is 2 inches so that it's going to blend with the front piece. So this is our back. So even for this one, we are going to cut it out. So the next thing we are going to do is to cut it on the fabric. So we are going to take these pieces and cut out our fabric. These two are going for the pink fabric and this is going for the gray fabric. Okay, now we are going to cut out our two nets. So looking at the style has 2 steps. And those 2 steps have a gray, what will I call it? They have that gray fabric attached at the tips, at the end of it. So now we are going to cut the one that will have that gray fabric attached to it. So we are going to cut out 14, then 3 inches shorter than 14, that is 11. So one of the steps will be 11 and the other one will be 14. So I'm going to start with the first one. This is 11 and the next one will be 14. (11) and 14. I'm still going to mark it this side. 11 and 14. And I'm going to cut it out. These are the rough edges. I'm still going to cut it out. I didn't measure them inside. So this is the first one, which is 11, and the second one is 14. So this is the part that is going to carry the gray fabric at the tip. Now we are going to cut out this gray fabric. So I folded my gray fabric. This is the wrong side. This is the good side, it's inside. So I folded it by the length. This is 1 yard, but this is by 60. So this is the longest part. I'm doing this because I'm managing the fabric. I'm using only 1 yard to do cut and join. My crinoline is 3 inches plus sewing allowance, that will be 4. So I'm cutting it with a length of 4. So 3 pieces will make a step. So I'm cutting this like, this is 1. I'm going to cut another one to join to it. That's 2. I'm going to cut another 4. So 3 of these will go on one step. So I'm going to still cut another 3. That's 1. Two. 3. For the steps, this is done. So now what is remaining here is what I'm going to use for the bow and to cut those things in front. I'll be using this one for the bow, part of it to go for the bow and part of it to go for that front design, those tiny pieces we had cut. Okay, here, in order not to make this thing too long, the other piece, I folded it. I want to cut out my bodies. This is the bodies. So I folded it, and you know it's 1 yard and I'll be managing it. So I want to use this one for the bodies and also cut out the bow at the back. So here I've pinned it. I don't need to show this because everybody already know, but for you people to flow with it, I will just be brief. So here you will cut out this one and also cut out the back. So I will cut it out. I'm pausing it. I'll cut it out and show you. So here I've cut out, this is my basic bodies. I have cut it out. Please, when you cut it, go ahead and cut your lining. I don't need to show all that. Just follow the same pattern and cut out your lining. So I will not be showing the lining part. Now, the leftovers from the doll face, I cut out this piece for my bow. The length of it, you know, we are managing 1 yard. So the length of my bow, this is 20.5 by 12.5. Mind you, we are going to use the gray fabric on the back bow too. So here, this is our gray fabric. Now, the gray fabric is not enough, but I will be showing you people how I manage my fabric. So this is my gray fabric. If you look at it, it didn't cover. Let me shift it so that you can see. Oh, it's not showing properly. Okay, I hope you can see now. 20.5 by 12.5. So what I will do, I'm going to cut this out so that what is remaining is what I'm going to be using. So this is what I'll be using for my bow. So now if you look at the doll face, is bigger than the gray fabric, but it doesn't matter. By the time you fold it, it's going to be hidden on the inside, so nobody will see it. When we get to that point, this is how you're going to fold it. Then you're still going to, when you get to that point, I will show you guys. And then by the time you do this, this is your back bow. I hope you can see it. So even though it's not up to the edges of my doll face, it doesn't matter. We will tack it, we will fold it like this, fold it like this, then bring this one to the middle, bring one to the middle, and we will gather it and we formed our bow. So this one is done. So this remaining fabric here is what I'll be tracing out the neck, those neck part of it. Okay. Now this, you remember this is the neck we cut. I took a cardboard paper and placed it on it. The reason why I did this, I want it firm. The paper is too soft. The paper is too soft. So this is cardboard paper. If you already have a cardboard paper, you can use it because it needs to be firm so that you'll be able to put it out and cut. So my own, the paper was too light. So I now put it on this cardboard paper so that I will cut it. This is just you people to understand why it's like this. Okay, so as you can see, I've told you people how I made this. I want it to be hard. If you look at it, see the same thing. I only used a sellotape and sellotape it to a cardboard paper and still trimmed out the same thing. So this is what we are going to use. Like I showed you before, this is what we are going to use to cut this out. This is still falling out, so it's still falling out, so I'm just going to staple it I use sellotape and it's still falling out. Okay, so if we look at this, this is it. So we will be using this one to cut out this gray fabric. Now there's something I want to show you people here. You are going to draw a line. You are going to draw a line. That line is not going to be visible, but you make sure you see it. Can you see what I'm doing? I'm using pencil. Mind you that this inch is equal to this inch. Always make sure they are equal to each other, the shoulder length. So even if you are reducing it by 0.25, make sure they are equal to each other. Then you are going to draw this line. Now, if we look at it, the line is very faint. If you make it too pronounced, depending on the kind of fabric, it might show. This one is not going to show, but what if you don't get this very type? So make the line to be so faint that only your eyes can see it. So when you are done, you are still going to do the same thing on this back piece, where you are going to take this and draw out your line. Please, it's very important. If you want it to be neat, please draw it out. Now, you cannot see it, but my eyes can see it. So just understand it. The line is not supposed to be visible. So the next thing you are going to do is you are going to cut out your fabric. So you are going to cut the back piece on fold. This is my back piece. You are going to cut it on fold. Now, when you are cutting it, please, you are going to add allowance in front. The allowance in front should be more than the allowance at the back. And you are now going to add allowance at the shoulder. This is just to guide you. By the time you are done, you are going to trim it out. So don't cut exact. Add the allowance in front, although there is an allowance, but it's not good to cut out these things exactly. In case there is a mistake, you still have room for adjustment. Now you are going to add ½ inch, 1 inch, but just know that at the end you are going to trim it out in case you make a mistake. So for the front side, this is what I'm going to do. You can see I made it except just be careful. It doesn't matter if you don't get it, but the most important thing is that when you are sewing, you are going to trim off the excess. So this is my you see this. The next one is we are going to cut the front. We are done with the back piece, so we are going for the front piece. So for the front piece, you are still going to do the same. Please allow enough allowance in front and at the shoulder part. So this is, I'm cutting it on fold. Trying to pin it so that it stays in one place. Please add allowance at the shoulder because there are tendencies that you are going to have shortage. By the time you start sewing it, you are going to understand my explanation. Then in front here, leave enough space. If you can see, this is supposed to be the neck. But but I'm not cutting exactly at the neck, such that if I have shortage, because this fabric is a kind of stretching, if I have issues or lapses anywhere, this one can cover up. I've had that experiences, so that's why I'm explaining it. By the time you start sewing, you will understand better what, by the time you start practicing, I mean to say, you will understand better what I'm explaining. So we are done with the front piece. Now we are going to cut a bow. The dress has a bow in front. If you look at the dress, there is a tiny bow in front of, at the waist. So this is going to be our piece for a bow. This is going to be our piece for a bow, just a front bow. This is it. So the next thing we are going to do is we're going to the machine to sew. Please remember to cut all your linings. Add your sewing allowance if you did not add it on the pattern. So from here we'll be sewing.